Hong Kong seems like a religion melting pot. People here are enjoying religious freedom. There is a large variety of religious groups in Hong Kong, including Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, and other small communities. The architecture of these religions can be easily identified with their unique features. Tin Hau Temple is the most iconic Chinese-style temple in Hong Kong, which is rich in quantities and representing the history of Hong Kong. Hong Kong was a fishing village in the past. Residents are mainly fishermen. They are believing in Tin Hau, the goddess of the sea. In those days, there are totally 102 existing Tin Hau temples in Hong Kong, and most of them were facing to the sea directly. However, based on the urban development and reclamation in Hong Kong, some of the temples were demolished and became the inner part of the city, which cannot face to the sea directly. We are going to introduce one of the Tin Hau temples at Sai Kung, which is considered the most scale, the oldest, and the largest Tin Hau temple in Hong Kong, and even in Zhujiang region. Therefore, it earns itself the name of the Great Temple. The temple was built in 1266 during Southern Song Dynasty. It is listed as Grade 1 historical building by the Antiquity Advisory Committee. The Great Temple is located on the Hai Chung Peak, facing the George House Bay. With hills behind and the sea in front, the temple is considered to be possessed of good feng shui.
When getting off the ferry at the George House Bay Pier, visitors would at first spot the temple in mid-air. Which is in fact built upon a cantilevered platform made of stone and concrete. Climbing up the ladders, the main temple will be found in the center of the platform. Which the imposing facade of the temple facing a spacious frontage. It allows places for people to gather and worship. The building reflects an important feature in Chinese architecture that is emphasizing articulation and bilateral symmetry, which signifies balance, hierarchy, order, and solemn. The protruding eaves of the temple, supported by two stone columns immediately before the doorway, form the porch. With the inclusion of a main door to the temple in the center bay, symmetry is maintained. The body is 3 bays wide, measured in terms of the traditional Chinese building width. Bay width is the term measuring distance between columns or structural wall. Moreover, the number of bays in traditional Chinese architecture is always an odd number, produced by even numbers of columns in a building structure. In general, the class of building increases with the number of bays. The Great Temple is composed of a main hall, connected to 4 side halls, 2 on each side. When walking into the temple, we can directly reach the main hall, which allows visitors to worship Tin Hau. Two 10-house resource models with 2.5 meter long are placed on both sides of the hall. In the center of the main hall, there are some small openings on the roof, which creates a stack effect. Smoke from the joysticks can then disperse through those openings, thus allow better ventilation. The crescent door of the left of main hall is connected to Temple Keeper's office, while the crescent door of the right of main hall allows access to two side halls, which are dedicated to a dragon bat and laughing Buddha respectively. The building complex takes up an entire property, but enclose open spaces within it. These enclosed spaces come in the forms of courtyard, which is one of the characteristics of the Chinese architecture.
The structural system of the temple can be identified into three major parts: the roof, walls, or columns and beams structure, and pedestal. Loads are transferred simply from the roof through the beams, walls, and columns, reaching the pedestal and finally to the ground. The temple is erected on a pedestal. The pedestal, supported by a network of stone columns and beams, stands on a cliff and offers a large space for gathering, as well as enjoying the peaceful sea view. Inside the temple, the structure is basically composed of walls, columns, and beams. A pair of daogongs are placed at the junction of the roof and columns, which cantilever the eave for protecting the walls from rainwater. It's also one of the symbolic decorations of traditional Chinese architecture. The roof is in the form of shanshan, one of the various types of roof designs in traditional Chinese architectural field. The decorations on top demonstrate a bit of the ancient Chinese religion, an enthusiastic worship towards dragons, lions, and things believed that would protect people. For framing, there is no use of nail. All members are instead connected by tenon and mortise work, which increases the flexibility of the structure, minimizing the impact from earthquakes.
By comparing the conventional temple structure, modern building consists of more simple and neat design with less decorative features. The components between the traditional and modern are totally different in terms of sizing, materiality, and load-bearing performances. For horizontal loading, concrete beams and steel bars are different from traditional wooden beams that resist only two directional forces, whereas the reinforced concrete beams are well performed both in compression and tension. For vertical loading, the concrete core and steel column replace the traditional stone bases and wooden column to support a vertical expansion of skyscrapers. Glass wall system is invented to create translucent facade instead of having brick walls as load-bearing elements. Daogong is no longer exists in modern buildings, which replaced by steel junction for connecting two structures elements. To sum up, unlike most contemporary architectures, the structural design of the traditional temple does not only based on scientific calculation and functional considerations, but also aesthetic and beliefs. Columns, beams, or any other structural elements do not simply act as load-bearing elements of the building. Instead, they all contribute in its decoration.
When feeling stressed with the control jungle, a journey to the rural side of the city that may be an option for us to escape. And the aesthetic designs of the traditional temples built in wood shall for sure give us a refreshing atmosphere.